Speaking of summer, nothing says summer like the NBA Finals, of course, at the beginning of June.
Smooth
and we are
transition.
here previewing the NBA Finals. We were talking about some of the basketball matchups. We'll get to game one momentarily because I do find a lot of this, you know me, as we've talked throughout the entire year. When it comes to the X's and O's and basketball stuff, it's some fascinating things. And, you know, I mentioned Jimmy Butler's assignment. You know, I was really surprised. It's one of these things where you don't really, for me at least, it doesn't really grasp until you look at some of the numbers. Jamal Murray's averaging 27.7 points, 6.1 assists, and 5.5 rebounds this postseason.
My guy, man. You know that. That's my guy.
He's shooting 48% from the floor, 41% from three. So, like, you wonder, okay, again, going back to what the game plan is for Miami. I don't think the zone's going to be as effective. So a lot of it is one-on-one with Bam Adebayo and making sure nobody else can have really good performances. That means Jimmy Butler on Jamal Murray a lot. That means full court pressure on Jamal Murray a lot. So you do wonder what the ripple effects of that are for Jimmy Butler, but you do wonder, since it is your guy, what this series looks like for Jamal Murray if we're operating with the assumption that that's going to be the primary target. Not so much Jokic, but getting Jamal Murray out of that game so he does not get to run his two-man game with Jokic like they usually do.
I hear you. I think that's one we're going to have to see a little bit more before I've got a clearer picture on Murray's, on what Murray's going to be able to do this series, more because I'm not sure exactly how Jimmy Butler's going to be able to hold up. Look, we saw him hobbled in that Game 7. You called it beforehand of like, hey, is Jimmy Butler maybe still a little bit more injured than we think? I think we saw that in that Game 7 against the Celtics.
So it was a really innocuous tweak. It didn't seem like big when he came up kind of shaken up.
Yeah. So which I don't, the way I took that, John, is that he's been dealing with more of a chronic thing here than anything with it. So, okay, now what are we really asking of Jimmy Butler? He's going to defend Jamal Murray, you know, I don't want to say the best scorer, but their best perimeter scorer, right, on one end, okay? He's going to do that on one end, and the offense is still going to be demanded from him on the other side of the ball. What is Aaron Gordon going to be on him? Like, you're going to be throwing some different bodies at him that are going to challenge him in different ways. I mean, Aaron Gordon is going to be a size disadvantage, obviously, for him. He's going to be a bigger guy that's tougher to score around. They're going to be able to throw a couple different guys at Jimmy to mix things up. That I think that makes that more difficult. So if you're to bring it back to Jamal Murray, if I'm getting a more winded Jimmy Butler or something because he's trying so hard on offense, maybe it doesn't affect it so much, Jamal Murray so much on that side of the ball.
Yeah, I do think that as we kind of look at this too and flip the matchups here, the other thing that's going to be fascinating is what Denver wants to do with their own defense, because Jimmy Butler is a mismatch hunter. He is going to go after the guys at which he feels like he has the best matchup. And that's why I think this dynamic is so fascinating, because I think we're going to see a lot of Jimmy Butler and Jamal Murray on one another and vice versa. Like, that's going to be the battle that essentially decides this series, because you know what he's going to do. He's going after Jamal Murray when he's got the ball. They're going to work to get Jamal Murray's guy over there. They're going to work to get him switched on to Jimmy Butler, and Jimmy Butler's going to try to get his shots and get to the free throw line with Jamal Murray as his primary defender, because I would assume, you know, you mentioned Aaron Gordon. I don't know if that's a matchup that really benefits them. I think you're going to see a lot of KCP potentially on Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think you're going to be switching, but I think you're going to be running different guys at him to give different looks. But yes, KCP,
Totally. But overall, like, what that means, and as you kind of spin that out for the rest of the Denver Nuggets and how they're going to defend, because, you know, I was looking through, one of the big things for the big difference for the Miami Heat, and there's like this version of the regular season Miami Heat and the postseason version of the Miami Heat. And we keep wondering, like, all right, what does this all mean? What is it going to be going forward? One of the big differences you see in terms of the postseason stats to the regular season is something we discussed a bunch. 3-point accuracy. They were 27th in 3-point shooting in the regular season. They shot 34.8% as a team. They are up to 38.5%. They're the third best 3-point shooting team in the postseason, the Miami Heat are. However, this is what really sticks out. They have killed teams that have given them the opportunity. Miami leads every team in the postseason in 3-point percentage on wide-open 3-point attempts, 44.5%. But they're facing a Denver defense that has given up the fewest amount of wide-open 3-point attempts in this postseason. Denver's been very sound defensively. I don't want to call them elite or great, but they've been sound defensively and not giving up the ghost on that end of the floor. And if those aren't coming, then again, it goes back to our original premise here. A lot is going to be on Jimmy Butler to get to the free throw line and create for this team if those wide-open shots aren't there for them.
Yeah, and I think that that's going to be extremely important. I think that there are, like, the other on the flip side of that too is what the Heat defense has either done against 3-point shooting on the other side or the missed shots by the opponents, right? Because you've got through the playoffs, The Heat holding opponents to 32.2% from three. That is a ridiculous, absurd number from three throughout the playoffs. So now on the flip side, Denver's been the best 3-point shooting team in the playoffs so far. So how does that clash? We'll have to see, but that's usually something I don't find as sustainable. The Boston Celtics, obviously the numbers in the last two games hurt that big time.
And I want to talk about that, and this is why, because I kind of bring this full circle when we have these conversations. When there's like a hesitancy to believe in Miami, people are like, why? So you brought up the 3-point defense for Miami. Opponents are also shooting just barely over 36% on wide open 3-point attempts against Miami. That is a rate that is very low for wide open shots. Again, wide open attempts are defenders within 6 feet or farther away. So essentially nobody. I'm 6 feet tall. So the length of my corpse, to you, there's not a defender. That is a look for an NBA shooter that should go down at a much higher rate than 36.4%. And yet that's what's happened for Miami throughout this postseason.
I thought Chuck was great postgame last night. He threw that question at Kenny where he was like, hey, what would you shoot from wide open? He's like 50 to 60%. Now, is that maybe a little on the high side? Yeah. But he was like, yeah, that's what, if you're a shooter, you're thinking you're making every single one of those, and you're usually making about half of them. And then he was like, look, a contested three is exponentially harder. I'm shooting in low 30s on a contested three. So those numbers are a huge difference when we talk about how these series pan out.
So, and the point there is that the Denver Nuggets are going to be able to take advantage of that. If they get a wide open shot, they're going to be able to take advantage of those opportunities against Miami. So let's spin this forward. Game one, Denver Nuggets are an 8.5-point favorite.
Yeah.
Your total's about 219.5 here for this game. We're actually starting to see some nines pop up as we talk about this on Tuesday. I think that this number and the nines that are appearing are very much the market coming in against the team that played 7 games in the Eastern Conference Finals and is getting only 2 days off in between. Now, a lot of people would say, well, they're getting 2 days off. Doesn't that negate some of it? I will bring you back to game 1 for Boston. They played game 7 against Philly, got 2 nights off, then played game 1 back at home. They lost that one outright, as we know. I think the market is really coming in on this situation. Denver's been rested, waiting, 9 days off, just sitting back and waiting for this team. And now Miami has to go up there and play.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.